So good morning, everybody. My name is Marnie Stein, and I'm the supervisor of the Emissions Inventory and Title V section here at the Iowa DNR. I was also the project manager for Iowa Easy Air. We'd like to welcome you to this webinar. It's the first in a series of 3. Today we'll be focusing on how to access the system and get your account set up. Just a few housekeeping things. I'm sure by now you guys have all used Zoom a million times, but we just ask that you keep your line muted. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat, or at the end when we have a break for questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. But in the meantime, you could put it in the chat. If you go to the bottom of your screen and hover over the bottom, there should be a bar that pops up with your mute button, your video button, and the chat. So I will just type a chat question in right here. If you have a question while we go along, Jason Dowie from the help desk is also here, and he'll be able to answer questions in the chat as we go. If he's not able to, then we'll hold them till the end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give you a brief introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Connolly, who is going to actually talk to you about how to access the system. So first of all, we want to start off, we have surpassed 1 year of Easy Air being live. It went live on December 5th of 2019, and our first year has been very successful, and we want to thank all of you again for your willingness to use the system, for your willingness to help test it, to answer surveys, to attend training, and give us feedback that has been extremely helpful. So just a little plug of why you should use Easy Air. So Easy Air is our electronic system for applying for Title V and construction permits. It's designed to be simplified. If you remember SPARS at all, it's much faster and cleaner than SPARS just because we're more modern. Think TurboTax. It also is very advantageous for people that aren't familiar with filling out applications because it kind of guides you through the system and asks you questions to help fill out your application. It also has data validation. So a lot of the time when we get permit applications, it can slow down reviewing and issuing the permit if not all the information we need is included in the application. Easy Air has data validation, so there are certain fields that you cannot submit your application unless those fields are completed, and that cuts back on the amount of time we need to have to contact you and get things straightened out before we can review and issue your permits. It also accepts online payments. You can pay by electronic check or credit card. You can still also mail in a check, but in the case of minor source construction permits, we will not work on your permit application until the payment is received in the mail. So it's better to pay online. We've also tried to make it as friendly and possible and reduce the amount of duplicative data entry you need to do. So Easy Air is preloaded with all of your equipment information from Slice and Spars as of November 7th, 2019. And that was the big data dump we did before we went live. We encourage you to use Easy Air because it makes it faster for you. It also makes it faster for us. We process and review all of your permit applications in Easy Air and do all the billing in Easy Air. So if you submit on paper, we do have to data enter it into the system, and we do charge a nominal fee for that. So it's much better for you to just submit it online, and you can actually track the progress of your permit application through your dashboard. So you don't need to call us and ask us, when is this going to be assigned? Who's it assigned to? Because all of that information is available to you. So just an update of who's using Easy Air. So for the past 12 months, for construction permitting, their total usage is 69% of applications have come in using Easy Air. As you can see, there are a higher number of major source applications that come in compared to minor source. And we are working with stakeholders and doing some surveying and research to discover ways that we can make the system more appealable to use for minor permit applications. So far this month in February, 100% of construction applications have been submitted using Easy Air. So that's really awesome. For Title V, the usage rates are a little bit lower. So 48% of Title V applications are currently being submitted using Easy Air. As you can see, we have a higher percentage of initial and renewal applications coming in Easy Air. We have some education and legwork to do. The majority of our modification requests are still coming in on paper. And there's a webinar this afternoon that Jeremy Arndt will be doing, and he'll be explaining to you why using Easy Air to submit a modification request is just as fast as sending us a Form 1 and a letter. 100% of the Title V initials and renewals in February so far have been submitted using Easy Air until this morning when we did get one on paper. So we did just receive one on paper, but we're very excited about the number of initials and renewals coming in, and we will be working on improving the modification rates. So today is the first webinar in a series of 3. So we try to do webinars every 3 months. So this morning we're going to be talking about how to access the system. This afternoon will be Title V applications and modifications, and that webinar will start immediately with how to fill out an application. It will assume that you already know how to have your account set up, as will the construction permitting one tomorrow. There are several new features in Easy Air specifically for construction permitting. Start of operation and start of construction notices. You can request your construction permit rescissions in Easy Air now. So you'll want to tune into that webinar tomorrow to find out more about that. And as always, this is the link for our eAir Services webpage, where you can see recordings of previous webinars. You can register for these webinars. There's also SLICE information on there, so you can register for SLICE training as well. And there's lots of FAQs, instruction documents on that site as well. I will let you know we are recording today's webinar, and we will be attempting to post it on the website. Previous webinars, we have the December 2019 webinars posted. We have not had much luck in the past few months with the recordings that we did in GoToWebinar. So that's why we've switched to Zoom today, and hopefully we'll be able to get those webinars edited and posted. So what if you have questions while you're using Easy Air? Make sure you visit that website. It has lots of great information. And then your first point of contact should always be the help desk. Either email them, which is actually what we prefer, because that email goes to both Kevin and Jason, or you can call them. And then if they can't answer the question, so if your question is not specifically on how to use the system, but is actually on the content of a permit application, they will transfer your question to the construction permit hotline or Title V staff if needed. That is the end of my little intro for you. I am very happy you're here. And as soon as I get this to stop sharing, I will turn it over to Kevin Connolly.
All right. So as Marnie had said, we're doing accessing Easy Air today. There we go. I'm Kevin Connolly, as Marnie said. I'm with the Program Development and Support section. I'm Environmental Specialist Senior, and I'm the Data Administrator for Easy Air. I used to be the person in charge of SPARS and been able to follow that program from cradle to grave. So today we get to look at this new system of ours, the Iowa Easy Air. And I think you are going to, if you haven't used it in the past, I think you're going to find it as a significant increase, improvement over as far as Marnie had said. So let's go ahead and show you the website that Marnie had spoken about. So this is the eAir Services website that Marnie mentioned. And as you can see, we have a section dedicated to Easy Air here. We also have, as Marnie said, access to SLICE and our asbestos notification system. So this website has a lot of information covering just about any other ways that you connect with the Air Quality Bureau. Each of these sections have these expanding bars that open up when you click on them. And let's go through what we have here. This Easy Air banner has the website overview, and there's a notice to SLICE users who had their accounts in SLICE prior to the time we went live with Easy Air. We also have contact information and login access by either clicking here or on the Easy Air link image. What background information is available? Much of what's here is covers what Marnie had said in previous webinars leading up to the development of Easy Air. How do I get or change access? This is a section that has certain forms for accessing the system, including the Electronic Subscriber Agreement form, or the ESA. What instructions are available? This is the section where the real info for accessing IO Easy Air is located. This includes creating accounts, managing preparers, user guides, new feature instructions, forms, and FAQs. What kind of training is available? Well, there's registrations for today. If you haven't registered for Title V this afternoon, I think there might still be time to do that right here. And then tomorrow's training for construction permits. As Marnie said, this also includes YouTube videos from December 19th of 2019, which we plan on updating with information from this week's seminars. All right, let's move from there to take a look at accessing the system. Back to here. All right. This is the public login page, or how you'll access the system. Now, I mentioned before, many of you have had SLICE accounts prior to our migration event in November 2019. And this information is in this section, getting started. Before you begin an online application, answer these 4 easy questions. And pay attention to this circled area here. We migrated user accounts from SLICE to Easy Air. We only migrated user names, not passwords. You want to read this information and try and remember when you had your SLICE account created. So if you had a SLICE account prior to November 2019, you would select the forgot your login username or password link over here in this section. If you think you would follow the directions to have a temporary password emailed to you. If you think your Slice account was active in 2019 but not sure, follow the same steps. If when you enter your email address and there are no results, that means you'll need to create a new account in Easy Air. We'll follow the create account link, which is what we'll do now. With Slice, you had to send in multiple forms to be able to register to use the service. There was the registration form for basic access, and then the ESA for responsible officials. With Easy Air, you have the ability to self-register. As I said, this is where you click on create a new account. What you'll do when you fill this in, I am going to actually, let's go to the account registration documents for responsible officials, and all right, here we go. This is what I wanted to focus on before we get into the application. There are account registration instructions for responsible officials and preparers located here. Both forms, both instruction booklets have the same information for setting up your account, and then the responsible officials document has additional information for duties that the responsible official covers. So if you download these now and follow along, that'll be very helpful to you. Or go in after today's webinar training and download the instructions that will be relevant to the work you'll be doing in Easy Air. As to the type of work you may be doing, we need a definition. A preparer is someone who works on applications for the company that employs them. A consultant is an outside preparer contracted by a company needing an application submitted to DNR. That seems pretty obvious, but we use these two terms interchangeably. They have the same rights and permissions as the other. It's just broken up this way to identify who is getting access, either an internal person or an external user. So we'll go ahead and use the Responsible Officials Guide, like I said, because it contains the same information. Start off by entering user information to create a new account. Required fields are highlighted with a red asterisk, as you can see here. If you try to proceed off of a page and a required field is blank or only partially completed, or if it has invalid data for that field, the system will throw up a red comment indicating that a field is incomplete and must be filled out before advancing. Again, this is going to be the same process for responsible officials and consultants and preparers. All forms do need to be complete before you're able to proceed. So taking a look at our example here, if your login name, was migrated from a Slice, actually you won't see this screen because you're not creating a new account. But it will be the same username in Easy Air, your email address. When creating a new account, as you type in your name, certain elements are used to create your login username. The default is the first letter of your first name and then your full last name as you're typing it in. Or you can make it the same as your Slice account by typing in your email address. or you can make it anything you wish for your username, your nickname, your favorite cat or dog's name, your spouse's name or nickname, but please keep that clean. It is your preference. This is the only time and place where you get to have a choice for your username. For those with sliced migrated user accounts, sorry, you don't get a choice. It is your email address. We go to the test server. We are going to create a new user. Does not have an account. So we're going to create a new account. Let's go ahead and raise this up a little bit. Let's create a responsible official. We'll call her Susan L. Generic. If you've ever taken these classes with me before, these webinars, you'll know that I've created a whole family of generic people to use as my example. The username here is sgeneric. We can make it favorite dog's name, Princess, or you could use the email address of sl23@gmail.com. So at this point, for a new user, you can make your username whatever you want. Since I've written that out, we're going to go through and fill in employer, which is, we are generic. Their job position is always generic. Their address is 1234 Generic Drive in, that's a tab, not a Q. In Lone Tree, with 52755 as the zip code. Primary phone number. Extensions mobile phone number. Now this is available to you if you want to receive text messages for system emails that get sent out as your application moves through the system, moves through the review process. To do so, you click on the I want to receive messages and select enter your mobile phone number. And enter your mobile phone number from the list that's provided. We do not have all of the providers in the area available. For example, we don't have US Cellular at this time in the list. So we'll drop that out. And let's see if I want to say right now. I have a required field that's not been completed. The email address is blank. We get this warning message that the form is incomplete. So I'll put the email address here in the email field. We'll go back here and change that username to SL Generic. So now we click Next. And you're brought to the roles. There are only 2 roles, but remember we talked about 3 different nomenclatures, three different users. We have preparers and responsible officials. Preparer, again, is a person who fills out applications in the general terms of the system. Let's take a quick look at here. And let's take a look at those roles and how they're handled. There we go. Responsible official preparers. Only the responsible official can make the final submittal using their PIN. There's no wet ink signature required if a user account is e-verified, which is our preferred method. So what we have here, the account privileges of a preparer to view and prepare an electronic data entry form in Iowa Easy Air, an application, view submitted data in Easy Air. So if you've submitted an application, you can go find it, and you can keep track of the status of that application as it works its way through the review process. The responsible official above has the same rights and privileges as the preparer, plus they can certify and submit an electronic data entry form in Iowa Easy Air. They can submit the application to the DNR. To enable them to do that, they will be issued a PIN once their account privileges are approved by the DNR. And finally, the responsible official manages preparers and consultants. You can have separate responsible officials for Title V and construction, although only one RO is allowed at a time for Title V permitted in Easy Air. You can only have one active RO. You may have multiple people signed up as ROs or approved as ROs, but only one of them can be active at a time. Under the section where it says manage preparers and consultants, the responsible officials must assign preparer rights within the system for other staff, employees, and consultants. We have a one-page cheat sheet for responsible officials on the eAir Services website, and we'll take a look at that towards the end of the webinar. And as Marnie had said, there's always additional information included in the general FAQs documents for setting up the system on the administrative side, as well as answering questions for each program. Now, Easy Air has two user types, responsible official and preparer. And I know I harp on that a lot, but that's because in Slice, we have 3 roles instead of 2. There's the editor, the administrator, and submitter. The editor role is the same as the consultant and preparer role in Easy Air. The submitter role is the same as the responsible official. What Easy Air doesn't have is an administrator, someone who manages the editors in Slice. Easy Air requires the responsible official to manage both submitter and administrator jobs found in Slice. So when a company wants a user to prepare a permit application in Easy Air, the link between user, facility, application types is done under the RO's account. Remember, a preparer is an employee of the company, a consultant is a preparer outside of the company. If the user is a consultant who has staff working for them, each of those users needs to be granted access to the facility by the RO. Yes, I know this puts a burden on a responsible official. And I know consulting firms don't want to put an RO through adding 4 or 8 or 15 users under his or her account, manage which facilities each has access to, and which application types each has access to, and the time period in which the users are allowed access to the facility data And that all of that goes for internal company preparers as well. I wish the system had an administrator role for companies, but the system just wasn't built that way. We have heard that some firms are allowing staff members to log in using the primary consultant or firm owner's account so they don't bother ROs with all of the user management issues. However, and this is a big however, the system was not designed to store in the database or in the program edits and saves in multiple applications at the same time under a single account, or to have two or more users editing and saving data in the same application under a single account. Edits and saves can overwrite the other person's work, delete all of their changes, and any number of problems can occur. The basic system was not built for this type of use. So if you do use this method of allowing multiple users concurrent access under a single account, we do not recommend this at all. If there is a problem, as there have been, we, the DNR, are not using the system this way and are unable to replicate the error being seen by public users. There's no support our help desk or construction and Title V permitting staff can give you. If we can't replicate it, we can't solve it. All we can say, unfortunately, is use this method at your own risk, or use this method at your client's risk. Let's go back to the application. We're going to go ahead and select the role of a preparer. You have basically 3 more steps to take before you complete your account. There is a radio button, which we just checked. Security questions, and then a request to access, a request for access from the responsible official. Let's go to the responsible official and see what they have. Responsible officials have another task in EasyAir in order to be able to submit applications, and that is called identity proofing. This is how the DNR validates that the person signing off as a responsible official actually has the authority and authorization from the company to do so. We have 2 methods to identity proofing. The first is identity proofing by e-verification using LexisNexis as a third-party verification system. This is the same as if you had ever submitted anything electronically to the EPA through the Central Data Exchange, or CDX. Same company, same agency, same process. The benefit is that if you successfully e-verify, you don't have to complete the ESA form or wait on the DNR to approve your access to the system. The second option is the same as getting set up as an RO or submitter in Slice. You download a form, fill it out, sign it, and mail it to the Bureau. And you can download that, like so many other things, from the eAir Services website. This is under the banner for how do I get or change access. And this is almost exactly the same as the SLICE ESA because they ask for the same type of information. You'll have your facility information, signature block. Additional facilities are added here, and then your instructions for how to use and submit the form. Now there is flexibility here. You can have separate ROs for construction or for Title V or for both, based on the application types for your company. You could have one construction RO for each application. You could have one RO for Title V, but not construction. You could have them for Title V, pre-applications only. So there is flexibility built into the system. As I said, for Title V, there can only be one RO active at a time. And that RO, like sending it on paper, has to meet the requirements of IAC 567 22.100. So as I mentioned previously, the RO sets up consultants and prepares access, and this goes back to the issues we have with an off-the-shelf product. I mentioned the cheat sheet from the eAir Services website and suggest that you download this because we will go through the process later. So we've got our user general information filled in, but let's go ahead and complete the application process for an account. So let's go ahead and say that this new RO is responsible for construction and Title V applications. If there's nothing chosen, you have just a blank screen. As soon as you select one of these, you get an associated facility list. So you need to now add your facilities to your account. So we select the big yellow button for Associate Facilities. This pop-up appears to allow you to see if your facility is currently in the EasyAir database. You only have to search one of the three options here, depending on the information you have at hand. If you fill out two fields, then both have to match exactly with the database information. If you fill out three fields, all must match. So the more information you provide, the harder it gets to make a match by filling in more criteria. So enter the start of a facility name, or if you know the facility ID, but basically start your search for one item at a time. If after you search for your facility and nothing is found, you may try, again, various permutations of these three informational fields. You will need to, if you always come up with no facility found, you will need to request the facility be added to EasyAir. We go back here and we select the EasyAir facility name and number change form. And that looks like this. You'll put in the request date, your information, the type of facility it is, whether you want a new facility number for a stationary site, a temporary facility number for a portable plant, or if you're going to process a facility name change. Enter the new facility name, the comments of why you are requesting this information, a new plant number, and then all of the information about this plant's location. If you have any facilities within 5 miles of the facility for permitting that your company owns or operates, you need to include those because of the whole one source, two source review that needs to go on. If you're only processing a facility name change, check C, put in your comments, existing facility number and existing facility name, and then enter the new name up there. Complete this form electronically, no hard copies. Do not scan the form and send it to us. Just email the form to the email address shown on the form. This is a specifically web-based form. There's no signature that's attached to it. Just as if anybody is sending us an email or a letter saying they want to have a new facility added to the Air Quality Bureau's database system. Same process, we've just automated it for you to take out the filling out an email and sending a request on letterhead that's been scanned, etc. So let's come back to what our responsible official is trying to do. We're going to associate a facility. And let's go ahead and put in a search criteria and search for it. Sometimes, there's my page. Sometimes when you do a search like this, you will get multiple hits. Remember that Easy Air has the full listing of sources that are in our record center, and the sites will pop up if you use a portion of your own site's information, or for example, I'm just going to put in everything in this county, which is 90 is, I'm not remembering exactly what it is, Eddyville. So this is like what? Is that Monroe? I don't have my county map available. So let's just go back to what we are working with. Here we have two examples. We get the Easy Automation Inc. and the Iowa Easy Air test site. So I need to select the site that I'm going to be using, or that I'm going to be registering for and requesting access to. And over here, we need to select the types of applications that this responsible official is going to submit. It may be all of them, or it may be a subset of that. For example, let's give Ms. Generic access and responsibility for aggregates, concrete batch, hot mix asphalt plants, permit by rule PBRs. Also be responsible for construction permit, determinations, and pre-applications, the start of construction notification, rescissions, and both Title V application types. I'm sure many of you will have the same volume of work and application types to complete as well. You may notice that she does not have access to the construction standard application, the start of operation, or 3 other templates. Let's assume for now that the company will have another responsible official that will take care of these extra or unselected applications. Again, this is part of the flexibility that's built into the system, where there is flexibility in assigning rights and duties as needed by the company. Let's go ahead and click OK. And nope, I had unselected my facility. Again, red banner because I had unselected that. Now I'll select OK. You get a pop-up that indicates that your choices were successfully saved. Click OK. It returns to the search page and we close it. Now, underneath your account creation, your associated facility list has all of those application types for this company or facility name. So you may see that depending on your access that's approved, you may have a huge number of application types to manage, both as a responsible official and as a consultant or preparer. For example, if you're authorized for 5 facilities under either role and select all 16 application types, that's 80 records you have to manage. Some companies have more than 10 facilities. All 16 types later, it's 160 records. If you're a consultant, that you have the job for those 10 companies plus 30 other companies that you contract with, you can see how huge this universe of application types can become. But you don't have to do it this way all the time or by selecting everything, just to make it easier to move through the registration process. If you're a minor source, there's no need to select the Title V applications. If you're a small painting operation, you can select just the PBR template and forget the other 15 construction applications. So let's say you're a metal coating plant, so don't add the Group 1 or Group 2 elevators, or the hot mix asphalt plant, or bulk gasoline plants, etc. You can always add or remove application types or facilities from your account whenever you need to. So this has been set up. The status is pending. So they're not active yet. We're still in the setup process and we still have to go through verification. We select next, and we end up with security questions. So this is where the registration for preparers and ROs meet up again. You remember those preparers? They are right over here. After the preparer selects prepare, preparer, and next, they end up here at the security questions. Exactly the same as responsible officials. The preparers just never see any of the tasks the RO just performed. These questions and answers are part of the validation used for password recovery, making changes to your profile, e-verification, identity proofing, and the RO's ability to submit a permit application. To complete this, there are 5 questions in 5 question groups. Pick questions and answers that are easy for you to remember, but hard for others to guess. You can look at, this is your first job. What's your favorite painting or photo? What was the year model of your first car? What school did you attend 6th grade? What's your childhood nickname? Where were you born, hospital and state? What's your favorite hobby? What was your high school's mascot? Where do you want to retire, city and country? Who was your childhood hero? Where does your nearest sibling live? What street did you live on in 3rd grade? What is the name of a city where you got lost? For me, that was London. So choose questions that you know the answers to that will be hard, if not impossible, for others to guess. For today, I'm just going to go ahead and select the first question and enter the last word of each question to get through the process. This is something I suggest that you don't do. These answers are case sensitive. If I typed in retire as I did with a capital R, anytime that it is presented to me in the application, I have to type retire with a capital R as my answer, or it will fail. When you're done with these, you go ahead and click next. Here we come to a picture verification. This is the same for both responsible officials and preparers and consultants. You'll enter the pictures, the characters that you see in the image. So we have TDH5SX. This is called a CAPTCHA. And you'll see this on the internet when you're signing up for an account somewhere, or submitting a payment, or getting a verification where you get a grid of pictures where you have to pick out the crosswalks or buildings with numbers on the front, or stoplights, or, as you see here, alphanumeric characters. This is used as an indicator that only a human can make the right choices and keeps bots away from accessing your accounts. So type in what you see, then you click on for preparers. There's a difference here still, I'm sorry. Preparers, when you type in the numbers or type in the letters, you click the big yellow create account button. And then you move on to a successful account creation screen. Responsible officials have one extra step to take, and this is where the e-verification comes in. Preparers, you're done. You still have to get an account email from EasyAir with your username and a temporary password. So at this point, it's back to the login page for you. Oh, as in number 2, item 2 in your congratulations screen suggests you want to notify the company RO you work for or that you consult for that you are set up in the system. For responsible officials, we're back over here. And we have to do the identity proofing. We're going to go back to the user manual and here in a bit, because that's the best way to show how this works. Now, we do prefer the option one, the e-verification option. We click on it, we have to fill this out and send this information through LexisNexis. So what is LexisNexis? It's a third-party company that has a database of information that's publicly known that will confirm your information. And if you've ever sent a report or information, like I said, to the EPA through the Central Data Exchange, the CDX, like a wastewater report, TRW, or if you try to get an account for the DNR asbestos program, this is exactly the same thing. We can't e-verify somebody who doesn't exist, so we're going to go ahead and go back to the user account. So I'm going to cancel out of here, and we will go back over to the user account to show you how this actually works. So you click the green Proceed with E-Verify option, as I did just a little bit ago, and you get presented with this screen that is started to be filled out for you. Using a different user's name from a previous session here. You fill out the requested information, submit the information to LexisNexis through the blue Continue Registration Process button. You'll either see a success screen under the E-Verify result area right here, or a failure screen. You have 3 opportunities to e-verify. After 3 strikes, you're out. If you are successful, this is kind of hard to see here. If you're successful, it will say you meet the Cromer legal certainty minimum standard for LexisNexis, using LexisNexis. There are 3 levels of success. There's the meet the minimum, there's meet the standard, or exceed the standard. If you are successful, all of your facilities now become active, which is something that you can't do if you use the paper ESA option. Only we can make that active. So using the paper ESA and sending it to us electronically is faster than us getting it through the mail, but there's still a delay. So let's take a look at the option 2, proceed with the ESA. Like I said, this is the same as in Slice, using the ESA form, which is almost the same as filling out the Slice application for access. This is a user validation tool. Again, here's the blank ESA that you can download from our website. This is like I said, a validation tool where we validate the user in several ways, either calls or emails to the facility to verify the duties based on the job title, reviewing previous submittals from the company to see if the person had submitted applications in the past. Excuse me. We have a duty under Cromer to make sure that the person signing off on applications actually has the authority from the company to do so. And you can see that will take some time to get authorized by us before you can start working on applications if you use the ESA option. Question here about the certification. Nope, I didn't want to go that bad. For Title V, you certify that you're responsible, you agree that you are a responsible official as defined in code, or that for construction permitting purposes, you have the authority on behalf of the company to submit the application. So you can have multiple construction permit responsible officials for your facility. They can all be active at once, and all of them may be able to submit the same applications or completely different applications. So there's a lot of flexibility for a company with regard to construction permitting. This page 7. Right. Now, a helpful thing with the ESA in Easy Air is you don't have to use this blank form. After you've entered in all of your information in Easy Air, you can go to, this is after we have got to the green button, proceed with the ESA option. This is the same congratulations screen that the preparers got. Your account has been created successfully. Check your email for a temporary password. What you do here, though, is you print your subscriber agreement. And that removes some of the information necessary to complete the ESA. It pre-fills all of your registration information, lists all of the facilities on the front page, on page 1, and it'll extend to page 2, page 3, depending on how many facilities you're working with. And it also includes the application program and all of the application types that you selected to be responsible for. That part there is something that our regular ESA does not have. Oh, does not have that access to application types in our blank ESA. So we have now gone through the process of creating the ESA, creating the account for Susan Generic. At this point, both the ROs and the preparers should go back to the login to enter in their username they selected and the temporary password that was sent to them in email. And Jason, do you have that temporary password?
Yep, I'll send it to you in the chat in just a moment.
All right. So we know the username is this. And let me see. Waiting for the chat to show up. I wonder if I have it. Where is the chat screen? There it is.
Kevin, this is Marnie. I'll just pop in while we're waiting for that password. If anybody has any questions at this point, feel free to put them in the chat or just save them up for the end of the presentation.
All right. Jason has provided the login password. And both users of responsible officials and preparers will see this screen where you have to select a new password. The minimum for a password is 10 characters. It has to be minimum of 10 characters long using alphanumeric, upper and lowercase, and special characters like a $, equals, exclamation point, a pound sign or the hashtag, an underscore. The RO additionally has to set a PIN, personal identification number. And while this says the PIN must be at least 4 digits, we have since realized that this is 4 digits only. It must be 4 digits only, 4 numbers. If you put in more than that, it will fail. And as an enhancement to the system, we'll be changing the text here. So let's go ahead and put in password. It's 10 characters minimum. And then a PIN. And let's see if I typed everything correctly. Yes, I did. So when you log in, you are presented with your dashboard. This screen is the same for preparers and for responsible officials. It tells you what work is upcoming, the submittals that need to be worked on, recent emails, payments that are dues, application selections that are pending. It shows existing permits in this section that have been issued for the facility. And this will have a mix of new and historic permits, as the majority of permit numbers have been migrated to easier, but not all of them. Use the public inquiry portal on the login page right here to access permits that may be missing from your screen. This connects to a new version of the construction permit search engine. You'll also want to check DocDNA, and all of this information is included in the general FAQs document. Contact us if you can't find a particular permit that you need. This section is for ROs again, and this is the part where the burden falls on the responsible officials, which is the adding preparers and consultants. If we take a look at Susan Generic's information here, we have her address, and we have the facilities that she has been associated with. Since we did the ESA version and not the e-verification system, we would get the ESA from the company, we would validate the user, then the DNR would come in here, select all of these, and wait a second here. ESA. Oh, that's right. I'm logged in as the user. At this point, she can't do anything. We have to go over to the agency side, and maybe Jason could do that and activate all of her accounts and applications. While he's doing that, We're going to take a look at this monster issue of managing consultants and preparers. It's really not that big of a monster issue, but as we've talked about, it can get time-consuming and detailed. Before anybody can do work as a consultant or a preparer, they have to be logged into the system. If as the RO wants to add a consultant, I have to put in that person's email address, which means that they have to already exist on the system. This part here, it can get involved. So if you have, please follow along in the cheat sheet that comes off of the eAir Services website. And we have gotten to this point, and we have just clicked on to validate a new preparer. So like I said, the consultant or the preparer already has to exist. So you enter the email date, the effective date that they can start working at your facility's application types, and an expiration date. If you know the date you don't want them to have any more access to your facility, enter an expiration date. If there's a date when a contract will be completed, enter the expiration date. And then click the Validate and Associate button. Then you would go ahead and save that information in the follow-up screen. So let's go ahead and add somebody. And we'll add Shaggy at rubydo.xcom, and we'll start them back on the 1st of the month. We'll see if that email address is in the system. It is, and now we have Norval Rogers as the consultant. Here in the dropdown, this shows that you can have multiple consultants working on your applications. You may have multiple facilities and you want to assign different people to work on the different facilities. You may have one facility with multiple people, so you divide up your application types between them. So maybe someone becomes the template guru, but 2 people are given access to construction standard applications and another to work on Title V. And that's what you can do here. You can assign different people to work on different application types. So we have now saved this user's identification and effective date, and now we need to tell them what they can work on. So we click the Add Authorizations button. This provides you with all of the facilities that you have requested access to. If you have in setting up your responsible official account, you selected 14 different companies and different applications for each of those 14 companies. For each application type, you may have 14 facilities show up here. So aggregates could all be for a different facility. And so you would leave easier test site blank and highlight and select the other facility. It also shows that only the application types that we assigned the user are assigned the responsible official are active to assign to staff. So we do want them to work on all of these. Not that one, they don't have access to that. If you remember, I had said that there are multiple application types that are not being selected for Susan generic, and those application types will be managed by other people. That's why it's blank here. So we now have to tell, we've selected the application types, now we have to select which facility it's active. And you have to tell them to prepare only. You would think, since that's all they are allowed to do anyway, you would think it would default to that, but you have to actually select the radio button. So after you've made all those choices, you select OK, and they show up here in the list of authorization submittal types for this consultant or preparer. Here you would then save your choices again, and as the responsible official, you can then email notify this consultant that they have had these applications assigned to their accounts. You can also, as a responsible official, decide to remove somebody's access by just clicking on the red X to remove that type. And save. You can also go back to the consulting list. And if you had multiple consultants, they would all show up here in a row with all of the application types they have. Here you can manage the list where we just were for that user, or you can delete the user completely. And that is how a responsible official manages sub-accounts, preparer, consulting accounts in Iowa Easy Air. That's, it gets involved, and we often see the situation where this will be filled in, the user, the consultant is selected, but all of this is blank. What that means is they didn't select all of the radio buttons and checkboxes necessary to authorize the user to work on applications. So if you have seen that as a responsible official, or if you're a preparer and you go to create an application for your company, but then you can't get anything out of the drop-down list, that's because this was not completed correctly. So if you know you're supposed to have access as a preparer or a consultant and you don't, please consult with your responsible official to make sure that your access gets set up correctly. So that is accessing the system and managing users. The last thing I want to mention is that there are multiple FAQ documents and assistance out on the eAir Services website, and that will answer many of the questions that will come up. But don't be shy about contacting the help desk. Thank you for your time. Questions? Taking a look at what we have here, Jason. you have any of these answered?
Yeah, I've answered the ones that have come up so far through the chat. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
Let's go ahead and put those out here so everybody can get a chance to see what's being asked. Where to find out which facilities you have access to and which facilities have various accesses for those facilities. As a user, you would be able to find out what accesses have been approved for you. Jason, you got Susan's account set up with facility associations, and here where before they were pending, they are now active, and here it indicates whether there are one or more responsible officials assigned for that facility and that application type. For an individual user, basically you need to go into your dashboard, go to your general information and check for associated facilities. If there aren't any here, then they haven't been associated yet or correctly. And then you would see what types of applications you have been given. If you're trying to find out for other users, maybe at your company, then it all has to be done under the user's access. Another way to do that would be to make sure that when you get your notification of your access that the responsible official sends out, go ahead and manage those together so that you'll keep a listing of who has access to what. And as Jason had said so, in a quicker way than I just did. Is there a place in the system that lists the facilities you have access to, or just seeing what permits you are in the list? This screen in My Account, basic information, lists all of your associated facilities and application types. And that is here as we're showing right here for the users. Should probably sign in as the Shaggy Norval Rogers and show that. This one is I have an associated RO tab, so I'm assuming the ROs have to assign my roles. Correct. If you see associated RO, that means you are a preparer and you check that screen to find out if you have been given your access or not. If it's blank, then no, you haven't gotten any access. If it's, you click there and your name is listed, but this is all blank, your access was set up but incompletely. So questions using EasyAir, instructions, user guides, FAQs posted on the eAir Services web page. First point of contact is the help desk, either Jason Dowie or myself. Contact us through the email link for faster service, and we will then assist you if we with the operation of the system. If you have application process questions, as Marnie had shown, we will send those off to the Title V staff members or the construction permit hotline as needed, because I can tell you how the system works. I can't tell you what you should put on that Form 3. If the Form 3 is not working correctly, then that's an area that I can help with. And that has done it for me. If there's any other questions, please contact us at the help desk. And thank you for your time and your attention.